A grey-haired fellow picks up some yogurt and washing powder at a supermarket. In a short while, he'll get back to his house in the countryside and have a glass of fine wine, just like hundreds of other grey-haired customers in the supermarket. The only difference is that this one man robbed several banks, broke out of prison multiple times, and became the main character of a Netflix series. The man laying out his purchases on the checkout belt is Clark Olofsson, a Swedish robber, adventurer, and playboy. Is Clark Olofsson a real person? That's what the viewers of the Clark series want to know. Well, he's as real as it gets. Clark Olofsson, of flesh and blood, was born in Sweden in 1947. As a teenager, he forged his mother's signature to go to a sailor school. At 14, he sailed between South America and Japan, but fate soon brought him back to chilly Europe. Along with his mother and sisters, Clark moved to a crime-ridden borough of the Gothenburg municipality. One story of his life in Gothenburg is still popular among the Swedish inmates. They say that, once, some gangsters broke into Olofsson's home and trashed a music center Clark bought with the money he'd earned at sea. And that was the moment he decided, there's no point in being good. Better be bad. Very bad. And this is on an August night in 1965. Clark is 18. He'd already done 2 years in a behavioral institution after several minor offenses. Clark is one of the 3 boys who escaped from the facility and broke into a greenhouse at some wealthy estate. The rascals stuffed themselves with grapes, cucumbers, and tomatoes. The owner of the greenhouse is Swedish Prime Minister Tage Erlander. And this Huspson Manor is his country retreat. The boys are having fun. They're throwing tomatoes at the greenhouse walls. After one such strike, the glass breaks, and finally, a gardener notices his unwelcome guests. The boys flee, only to embark on more adventures. And in his lifetime, Clark would have plenty of them. Enough for 2 books and a 6-episode series. After paying a visit to the Prime Minister, young Olofsson didn't enjoy his freedom for too long. He attacked several police officers and subsequently got his first sentence as an adult. Since then, Clark would constantly break out of prisons, rob banks, and seduce women. Of course, he charmed the right ones, including his own victims. And one such case, which gained maximum publicity, was the bank robbery at Norrmalmstorg Square in Stockholm. August 23, 1973. Polite conversations inside Kreditbanken are interrupted by a gunshot. A man in a wig and sunglasses, the one holding the gun, screams, "The party starts!" Then, he puts a radio onto a cashier table and turns rock music on at full blast. This is Jan Erik Olsson, a repeated offender on a leave from prison. Olsson's bank robbery didn't go as planned. One of the bank workers managed to press the button for the silent alarm, and the police came at once. The only way out for Jan Erik was to surrender, or take hostages. He chose the latter. Olsson kept 3 female hostages with him, then asked for 3 million Swedish kronor, a body armor, and a fast car to make his escape. There was one other demand, though. They should also bring his fellow inmate, Clark Olofsson, into the bank. Olsson believed that Clark could handle any tricky situation and beat the rap like no one else. At the time, Clark was serving one of his numerous sentences. Nevertheless, the government somehow gave the police permission to bring the criminal to the center of Stockholm and let him join his friend. Once inside, Clark, slowly but steadily, analyzes the situation. Jan Erik leads him into a small bank vault. Sitting there on the floor, there are 3 scared, tied-up women. And Olofsson knows his way around women, that's for sure. The first thing Clark did was loosen the hostages' ropes. Later on, he found a wounded man in the building and brought him to the rest of the crowd. The 6 of them spent 6 days in the bank. The robbery turned into a national drama. The square was filled with journalists, and the event was broadcast live on national television. On the phone with the criminals was the Prime Minister of the time, Olof Palme. He promised, "We'll give you everything, just let the hostages go." But the hostages themselves chose otherwise. They wanted to leave the bank only if it was together with Olsson and Olofsson. So one of the hostages, Kristin Enmark, called the Prime Minister and asked him to prevent the police from entering the bank. I fully trust Clark and the robber. I am not desperate. They haven't done a thing to us. On the contrary, they have been very nice. But, Olof, what I am scared of is that the police will attack and cause us to die. Dearest Olof, sweetheart, it may sound stupid, but I want to go with the two. At last, the policeman drilled a hole in the bank ceiling and used tear gas. It was then that the hostages and the robbers hugged each other, kissed each other, and left the bank building hand in hand. Clark was sent back to prison to serve the remainder of his previous sentence. After the Norrmalmstorg robbery, as the incident was called, a new visitor started checking up on him. It was his former hostage, Kristen. Olsson, too, was showered with women's attention. He received thousands of letters. Later on, he even married one of his fans. The Norrmalmstorg robbery is not the only case in history when victims fell for their captors, but it surely is one of the most memorable. It was after this incident that the phenomenon of such psychological bond got its name, Stockholm Syndrome. But what about Clark? After the failed robbery, he just had to succeed, and it had to be grand. He escaped prison once more, robbed a bank in Copenhagen, and took to his heels. These events took place in 1975. While on the run, Clark went as far as the North Atlantic Ocean, but we'll get to that a bit later. The police caught up with the adventurer in January 1976, at a crossroads outside Brussels. Here, Olofsson put on a real show. Imagine Clark behind the wheel of a Citroën SM, surrounded by armed policemen. To shoot or drive ahead would mean to come under heavy fire in return and perish instantly. But Clark did open fire. With the bullets, he made his way through and escaped. The only ones injured in the shootout were the police. Later, Clark would describe this incident in a book about his adventures. He would claim that, in utter chaos, the officers shot each other. Olofsson took to his heels. He rushed across the borders, hopping from one means of transport to another. During his escape, Clark had a fateful encounter. While on a train, he met a 19-year-old Belgian brunette, Marijke de Muijk. Shortly after, Marijke became his wife. The wedding took place while Clark was already in prison. He came to the ceremony in a prisoner robe, and Marijke was wearing a sweater and jeans. No flowers, no music, but their marriage lasted for 23 long years. However, Marijke was not the only woman in Clark's life. He fell in love in the blink of an eye, and made women fall in love with him even faster. Olofsson's story in the Netflix series is not so much a tale of his crimes as of his dates. The script was based on what Olofsson had written in his autobiography, and he was certain he could charm almost anyone, from a prison psychiatrist to an upper-class lady. Even so, the only woman Olofsson had a long-lasting relationship with was Marijke. As of now, Clark has got a fiancé and a young son. All in all, he has 6 children, 3 with Marijke and 3 with other women. It's not like I have to be in love with a single person, but it's flowing. Oh my god. Clark was relishing his Dolce Vita, and women were just one of its components. To get a fuller picture, throw in some wine, world travels, and beaches. I remember once I had 300,000 in my pocket, on my way to Marseille. I bought a baguette with cheese and butter and a bottle of wine. Then I thought, I'm sitting here. I have 3 passports and 300,000. I can do whatever I want. So what do I want? I want to sit here, watching the sun, eating my baguette, drinking my wine, nothing more. It happened so that Clark did not enjoy his baguette for too long. He was always a fugitive from justice. For instance, after his idling with a glass of wine in Marseille, he set out to derive new pleasures from life. In 1975, after the Norrmalmstorg robbery, Olofsson, together with a companion, bought a sailboat, Saga, on the French Riviera, and they went to sea. Clark turned his life on the run into a pleasure trip. The friends sailed their expensive boat, making stops at beaches from time to time. Clark was learning to dive. In a couple of months, they passed the Azores and went into the Atlantic Ocean. And, who would have thought, they met a little boat under a Swedish flag in the middle of the sea. From aboard, a married couple waved to the adventurers. These 2 doctors were on their way back home from the Caribbean. The 4 travelers had a nice chat and took a picture together as a memento. Then, Clark and his companion asked about a route to Northern Europe, and the doctors helped them out. By means of stars, a pocket calendar, and a pocket compass, Clark and his friend finally reached Ireland and, from there, Denmark. There, they were met by the local police. Their encounter resulted in the sinking of Saga, while Clark managed to escape again. Olofsson loved exotic beaches and islands, and even more, in Sweden, he sought comfort and spectacular scenery too. Twice Clark was arrested in restaurants. Why deny yourself a drink in a nice dining room after you've robbed a bank? March 24, 1976. It was almost noon. Two managers at a Handelsbanken bank in Gothenburg were making quiet conversation. Suddenly, a man with a gun pushed open the door to their office. "Oh, two capitalist pigs in here," he said, and then claimed that he was sent by a powerful organization and that he could hear all the police talk through a small earpiece. His demands were clear. "Call the cashier and order 930,000 kroner. I want them in 900,000 notes and the rest in 100 notes." Though Clark was on his own and his earpiece was dead silent, the frightened managers promised him to get the money. At last, the cashier brought upstairs a bag full of banknotes. But then, Olofsson's fame did ruin his plan a bit. "Oh my, it's Clark!" the cashier exclaimed. Oh, it was Clark all right. He then locked the witnesses inside their office and left the bank with a pile of money. This was how the largest robbery in Swedish criminal history happened. Olofsson was arrested the very same day, or, to be more precise, late at night. He was at a hotel savoring a glass of grog. Under the table, there was a bag filled with banknotes, 230,000 Swedish kronor. Where did the other 700,000 go? It's still a mystery. This time, Clark lasted in his prison cell for 3 whole weeks. He escaped the Norrköping prison in a truck passing through 3 security gates. Clark was a robber, and he never denied being one. However, he claims to have had his own code of honor. We are robbing a bank. It's completely quiet. So, while my buddy is behind the counter, clearing out the money into a bag, an old couple enter the bank, and I let them go in front of me in the line. They don't notice anything. So the old lady is standing there with a thick wad of banknotes and a bank book. My buddy goes out, and when he passes the lady, he grabs her money as well. But I know that she won't get that money back because she hasn't deposited it. So, I run after him, take the money, and give it back to the lady. Have you ever seen an interview with a wanted criminal when the journalists keep his whereabouts a secret from the police? Well, the Swedes sure have. While on the run, Olofsson gave an interview to a national TV channel. In the 1970s, Clark's life was covered by the Swedish media. They used to call it international adventures. Gather in front of your TV sets, everybody. This is so exciting. And on top of it all, it's real. Clark is an idol, a gifted bank robber who never killed anyone, who gave the capitalist system what the capitalist system asked for. It seems like Clark and the Swedes benefited from one another. The people got their entertainment, while the TV star? No, it was not money. Nowadays, the most attractive factor is not money, but fame. And it doesn't matter what you're famous for, as long as you're famous. And being a household name on everyone's lips is the greatest wealth, the greatest fame, and Clark Olofsson has that. In 1979, Olofsson became the first prisoner to give an interview from prison. After the largest bank robbery and the arrest, Clark didn't put his life on hold. While behind bars, he decided to enter Stockholm University. Can you guess the course he chose? Clark joined his beloved pack of journalists. Eventually, he graduated with a degree in journalism, but didn't let go of his career as a criminal. Once he served his sentence for the robbery, Clark took up drug smuggling. For that, he was thrown into prison 2 more times, and in 2018, he was granted conditional release. Journalists hurried up to talk to the celebrity criminal, and Clark never refused an interview. There'll be no more prisons. Now I'm retired, actually, Olofsson told the Swedish newspaper Kungsbacka-Posten. Nowadays, he lives in Belgium. He meets up with his relatives and his former hostages. He sips his wine and writes books about his adventures on a typewriter. Clark has violated the rules of society an infinite number of times, but all the while, he greatly entertained the Swedes, and not only them. And people, apart from bread, also need circuses. Maybe that is why this daring man receives so much attention instead of condemnation. People on Norrmalmstorg Square cast admiring glances at the man who's been manipulating others and committing crimes throughout his life. The guide recounts a story of one such crime, and the tourists are excited about the prospect of taking a group photo with the former bank robber.